Alright, guys, good evening. It is 11 p.m. on Friday, October 20th, 2017. And just making a quick video as kind of a follow up to the Canadian dollar news that came out this morning. I know it's a little late making this, but I just thought I'd make it and show a couple of things here. Kind of historically, I think the Canadian dollar can sometimes be tough to trade. I don't know why, and I've talked about this with other traders too, that the patterns that the Canadian dollar make cannot always be clear. And I find a lot of times Canadian dollar news comes out and then, it'll go in one direction really fast and then come right back the other way. It just seems to be an odd currency to trade, but it is a commodity currency, meaning it's very much tied to particularly oil prices, because Canada is a big oil producer and exporter, so it is tied to the commodity price of oil. But this news today really didn't have anything to do with oil. So I just want to just review it really quick and just look at three Canadian pairs briefly, and just kind of give you my opinion where we might go next week. So what we had this morning was, at the same time at 8:30 this morning, we had both CPI and retail sales. Now you have to remember, with the Bank of Canada, the Canadian economy has really strengthened a lot in the last several months, and the Bank of Canada is becoming more hawkish. They have raised rates a couple of times, and the data had been coming in strong. Now, but there's one thing to keep in mind is, a few weeks ago, Bank of Canada Governor Poloz did make a statement that basically said, just to kind of cool the market down and just say, look, another rate hike is not necessarily a guarantee. It's going to be data driven, data dependent. So he's just basically saying, look, we're not going to blindly raise rates. We're going to look at each piece of data and we'll decide accordingly whether it warrants further tightening. And so that was kind of a hint to the market that, they need to see strong numbers to continue that hawkish, bullish tilt to the Canadian dollar. So, and of course, CPI is probably one of the major. Next to central bank rates and employment, CPI, which is an inflation number, is probably one of the more important we're going to look at. So this morning we had CPI and retail sales came out at 8:30 this morning, New York time, and so here's the CPI numbers here. There's just different breakdown. There's the month over month, the year over year, the core year over year, and the core month over month. And the main ones to look at are these two right here. And so the estimate was thought to be coming in around 0.3 on the headline, and 1.6 plus 1.6. 0.3 on the month over month, 1.6 year over year. So we came in right as expected, and we actually came out slightly better slightly worse on the month over month, and we came in right as expected on the year over year. And the core, there was no forecast for that, but it came out slightly lower than the prior, and on the core month over month, slightly better than the prior. But really, these are the main ones right here, are these two. And you can see on the month over month, they gave a range anywhere from 0.1 to 0.6 as the high and low. And we came out at 0.2, which is on the low end of this, so the market really didn't like that too much. And the year over year came in right as expected. But again, being year over year, this is going to be kind of a smooth out number, because it's a year over year instead of kind of a more volatile month over month. But the month over month is important because it kind of looks at the trend, and that's what the bank is looking at right now. And so of course it was minus a tenth of a percent, and so it was a little bit below expectation. On the retail sales, it was kind of a big miss. They were expecting month over month to be plus 0.5%. It came out at minus 0.3%. So that's a pretty big miss. And the core retail sales, where they take out autos, was an even bigger miss. There again, they were expecting 0.3 positive. It came out at negative 0.7. So retail sales. I still think the CPI numbers are more important. But the bank's going to be looking at this, and they're data driven. So they're going to look at this and say, well, retail sales is kind of an indicator. How confident people feel about the economy, and do they have more money to spend? And retail sales, you come out with negative numbers, then that's not a good sign. And the prior on the retail sales was plus 0.4. We dropped down quite a bit. I mean, that's a swing of almost a full percent, and it was a full swing of a full percent basically on the core retail sales. So I guess it was a neutral to negative report. I would say neutral because the CPI came out, slightly weak, but not terrible. But the retail sales really missed. So, and you can see that on the charts. So here's the pound Canadian. This is the 12-hour chart. I have this labeled like this, but to me this looks like we probably had a full trend in place here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I looked at this pattern here based on what we did today as an ABC correction. And so I think this, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ABC, and now we're starting up again. Now, we'll see, but I mean, this was a very strong move. So the Canadian dollar really sold off on the news. And you can see this is right where the news came out, and we just blasted to the upside, and it really didn't look back. Right up, almost right to the close, it was going up. So we'll see where this goes. But this is a very strong move, and I think this will probably continue up for a while. Because even if this whole thing is just an ABC, because obviously the Canadian dollar, the pound Canadian has been going down, but we've clearly broken out. It looks like a little bit, and so I think. Even if this whole thing is in A, B, C, then this has got a ways to go up. So we'll see, and we'll see if this is driven by the pound or by the Canadian dollar. That's more to come on that, I guess. So two more we'll just look at here. Euro Canadian. Zoom out a little bit here. This looks. Whoops! Now I'm still on the pound Canadian. I knew that. I was like, wow, it looks familiar. Okay, so here's the Euro Canadian. Again, I have this labeled as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go down a little bit here, and I got to put my scroll back on. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a correction down. This is about a 50% retracement. News came out right here, and just zoom up to the top. You see CCI compress going up and towards the close going down, spread apart. This is really indicative of a correction, so expect a little bit of weakness into the early session next week, and then the uptrend to continue on the Euro Canadian. Oops, no, I'm not taking an order now. Okay, and so I just wanted to check out where we might be going. Now I'm going to take this off for a minute, this label, because on this time frame. So see this, to me, whenever I see this kind of like walking up a trend line like this, it's always makes me a little cautious that this is just ultimately is a correction to a downtrend. I mean, you can almost looks like a trend, although it's a sloppy trend, but it's not a trend, and because in Elliott wave this would not qualify as a trend, but it could be maybe a leading diagonal. But either way, I'm guessing that this goes up to about where this horizontal line is drawn in. That's about where I'm guessing, which is these highs, but I actually didn't base it on these highs. I based it on the length of this wave 1, and I extended it out here. So I'm guessing this will go up here, but I think, ultimately, I'm not sure what this is going to do, but it has more upside potential. You see, again, it also shot way up today. News came out and just boom, just kept going. And again, we have CCI going up compressed, down spread apart, which means it'll keep going up. So, and the last one is, I believe, is Canadian yen. Okay. And again, same thing here. I believe that the news came out, we ended a trend. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a really big wave 4, but you know, it meets the guidelines though. And now we've kind of sold off here. And the news came out right on this candle, and we just continued to go down, and we didn't close on the low, but pretty close. I mean, here's the close, and this was the low. And again, CCI down spread apart, going up, down compress, up spread apart. This probably will correct a little bit, and I expect this to keep going down for a period of time. Now I want to take the label off this one too and show you something. So here we are on the daily chart, and of course the euro has been the Canadian. This shows the Canadian really, you know, the strengthening it's had since the springtime. You know, when it's just kind of been really just been going up mostly. And so this move down here looks kind of corrective to me. And now we have this big candle, this candle from 3 days ago broke to the upside. So I'm still thinking that this move down that we saw today, that this is a correction, and that ultimately this is going to turn and go back up based on what I see here on the daily chart. But you know, I mean, but this candle is pretty ominous on the 12-hour, so we'll see what happens. But you know, if you get the bigger picture out to the daily chart, you see this move down, kind of sloppy, choppy, overlapping way. Then you get one strong candle upside and takes out these highs here. To me, that could be pretty bullish in the long run. But I'm not saying this downtrend is over. I mean, this could keep going down for a while. Maybe we come back to this low, you know. But I do think this will go down a little bit more. But ultimately, I think just based on the pattern that the Canadian will turn back up at some point. But I'm not saying right now. But if it holds this low down here, then I think it'll go back. I think that, you know, obviously this would be the point of no return. If it breaks through here, then it'll keep going down. But if it holds these lows in here between about where it is now and down here, then I would expect that would just be a correction and an uptrend. So again, a little tricky trade in this pair, this currency, and be interesting to see where it goes next week. I don't think there's any. Let's see here. Yeah, no, I take that back. On Wednesday we have Canadian dollar monetary policy. So they're going to have another rate decision on Wednesday and monetary policy statement. So that's going to be critical for the direction now, because based on this data that came out kind of weak, I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, Monday, Tuesday, and into early Wednesday even, we see the Canadian continue to sell off, and then, you know, maybe this news will come out positive. Maybe they'll hike rates again, or just put out a bullish statement, and we'll see this uptrend continue. So that's definitely going to be a thing to watch, and that could very well work out with the timing of these patterns on these corrections. If this is a correction to the downside, and say on the Euro Canadian, if this is, you know, a short-term move up, and we get up to about here, and then the news comes out on Wednesday, and then we go down. So keep an eye on this Wednesday news, guys. Do not take your eye off of that, because I do think that we will see some major movement and volatility on Wednesday either way. So we'll have to see where the price action is and what the patterns look like at that point. But again, my guess would be we'll continue to see Canadian weakness and drifting lower on the Canadian dollar, and obviously up on pairs like this heading into the beginning part of the week. And then when that news comes out, we'll see what happens and what it looks like. So anyways, guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Like the video, share it, comment, whatever. Appreciate it, and hope it makes sense, and hope you all have a great weekend, and we'll be back next week with some more review and previews. All right, thanks everybody, have a great weekend.